All right, guys, welcome back to Kamagazi. My name's Q. We've got a special evening tonight with all the Warlock chatter that's going on. I thought we get into some stuff that's associated with it, some High Evolutionary. And I have the one and only Sithlordly from SpineTicks joining me this evening to help me out with this chat and work through some of these books and just kind of dig into a little bit and kind of get going. Sith, how are you this evening?
What's up, Q? Back here again, ready to be a wingman. You know, it's nice to kind of get away sometimes from the noise over there, the wildness, and just hang out.
Right.
So that's what we do here.
It's a little bit quieter. I did make you work in the beginning of this, and I do apologize, but
no worries.
Right. It was just a little bit. I'm learning my ways through this, but yeah, I appreciate the help. And
it was educational.
It was very educational. Yes. I'm not a Windows Google kind of guy, so that's why I'm just kind of learning. But anyways, I digress. So some big news has dropped, right? The whole Warlock thing. What's your take on it to begin with? What do you think of it?
Yeah, I mean, we knew he was coming, right? I don't think any of us are surprised. The casting choice was interesting. I mean, I can't really say I know much about the actor. I was just kind of looking, and I thought he looked kind of young, for the way I've always seen Warlock on comic books. But hey, they know what they're doing. So
I think he's maybe because of the age, because I think it's not just going to be a one and done, right? I think there's going to be a few movies that are going to be involved with it. So in casting somebody, I'm just saying who's a little bit younger, who can grow with this new segment they're kind of doing. I think it's a smart move. I'm not familiar with his current work. I know some of the stuff from before, but James Gunn, you have to have faith, right?
Really, I'm just jealous they didn't call me to do it. No.
You dye your hair and everything and paint yourself gold?
Hey, one time I went to an audition in LA and they were looking for a blonde stoner. I didn't really fit the bill, but I did the audition anyway.
Did you dye your hair blonde?
No. They got me mixed up. They had me come in for what they thought was Fat Santa Claus. They had called the wrong Sith. And I showed up and they were like, well, that's not going to work, but how about a blonde stoner? And I said, well, I probably don't fit that either, but why not?
They had a Sith Fat Santa?
Well, they had a bunch of Santas when I arrived, right? It was, we're digressing, but there was an acting, it was an acting class that I was attending in LA, right? And I had left the acting school, but I got a phone call and they were like, yo, Sith, except they used my real name. And they said, we've got a role that'll be perfect for you. We want you to come on down. I'm like, well, hey, why not? Even though I left the acting school, this is great to get a phone call to come in for an audition. And they had called the wrong guy.
Oh, okay. I got it. Okay.
But it was fun. I'm sure I ended up on somebody's worst audition holiday bloopers reel that they showed during the Christmas party.
It exists somewhere, right?
Yeah, somewhere.
Right on. Okay, so with all that Warlock stuff, I thought, and I have a couple of books here that are going to be opening during this chat that are associated with High Evolutionary, and I thought we'd kind of start there because without him, we're not going to get Warlock, right? So I think it's fairly important that kind of have that talk about his presence in the MCU coming up, right? Because he's essentially the one that he didn't create Warlock, but he kind of he gave him his sort of Space Jesus sort of identity. And I think it's kind of important that we kind of chat about that. So let's bring up the first book. We've got his first appearance. I'll put it up right here. So it's Thor 134. And this is, it's an interesting book. I think Thor shows up to his citadel because Jane Foster is there teaching. And she's teaching what the evolutionary has created. So he's genetically mutated these beings into sort of half human, half animal, and how that happened. So we kind of start from the beginning. The evolutionary is a human, and his name is Herbert Wyndham, and he went to Oxford, and he studied genetics there, and he was really curious about genetic manipulation. I'm going to take this out the screen just for a second. Bring it right back. So he was really interested in genetic manipulation, and he went to a conference in Geneva, and I have some notes here, and he met two people. I'm going to butcher this name here, Vlastislav Shilinsky, but the other guy you're going to know is Aram Zola, and so they kind of talked about his ideas of what he wanted to do, and they basically said it's just not possible. It's not possible at all. So I think some time passed, and he was approached. I'm not sure how it kind of went down, but he was approached by one of the Inhumans. I guess that's part of the Kree offshoot. Are you familiar with the Inhumans?
Yep. Well, in terms of I own the books, but okay. It's been a long time since I read them, and I just actually acquired the run again.
Okay.
But yeah, I need to, I'm reading 40 new books a week for SpineTicks, so it doesn't leave a lot of time to dive back into the back issues that,
right.
we read as kids.
Right. So he was approached by this Inhuman named Fader. And Fader, PH.
Darth Fader,
yes. The Inhuman Darth Fader. He had this information for him that helped him crack his genetic code. And he gave it to him. So with this information, he was able to genetically manipulate animals, and I think he started with animals, to excel them or accelerate them into human form. And he did this in a place called Wundagore Mountain, I believe it's called. Him and his classmate, Jonathan Drew. And you're going to recognize that last name because it's Jessica's dad.
Interesting.
So they kind of set up this citadel, this base in Wundagore Mountains, and it's in Europe. And it was because of some of the land that Jessica's mom had inherited. So they set up this laboratory. And here is where he kind of conducted his experiments, where he created, I guess they were called the New Men. And this is how we get to Thor 134, because he had these men and he wanted to educate them. So he brought in Jane Foster as a teacher, but I guess Thor didn't know this, and he went in and thinking that he's going to take down this bad guy, and apparently he shows up and she's teaching this class, and he's like, "You're okay?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'm fine." And he's like, "Okay, let's go." So it was like that was the first sort of meeting they had. He wasn't this big, huge bad that he becomes later on.
So Jane's teaching a class of animal men.
Yeah, so they're I should have had it outside this. So it's like this classroom of sort of animal men. And
you're aware on SpineTicks we have an infatuation with Pigman. I wonder if he was there.
He did. He had. I think he did. I think one of the leading creatures that he made. One was Bova, and I'll explain Bova a little bit later on. That was a cow. There was Tigra. And then there was another one. I think it was a pig, but the Boba character has a little bit of a connection to the Maximoff twins. I think maybe you've seen some pictures of that when she's
like the nanny, right?
Right. So that was his creation.
Boba Fett.
Boba
and Darth Vader.
I know. Where do they get these names from? Right. Could have been. Who knows? So now we have this character established, and this world starts building around him. he starts building this army of like men that are like created from these animals, and they kind of evolve down the road, and I'll explain how they kind of involve Warlock as well, because he's brought to help High Evolutionary sort of win over this counter-Earth that he creates. So let's get to the next part, where he's working with Jonathan Drew, and hold on one second here. Looks like we have a guest. You know what? I think you know this guest. He's like he's a pillar of the community. He's loved by all.
Someone you all know, someone that you all love,
and that you all love.
Who's that?
Who's that? I thought you were going to say it.
It's not Comic Tom.
Oh, Dan, how you doing, buddy?
Hey guys, my two favorite people. You know,
nice.
Sith, you ought to patent that. You just should. That's your phrase. So
there you go. Well, hey, you know, it's live on YouTube, so everyone know where it came from. So good to see you, buddy.
Thanks, buddy. Good to see both of you. Good to see both of you,
Dan. Thanks for jumping on.
Oh, my pleasure. I wouldn't miss this for anything. So this is a great conversation.
Nice.
So
the three amigos again.
Yes, right. When you offered, I couldn't resist.
Oh, I wasn't going to pass it up. No, this is going to be great. And by the way, you guys are going to be teaching me more than I know. I mean, as long as I've been collecting, I'm still learning. I still a bunch of things. I'm having fun going back through comic history, especially with Marvel, and learning all the cool things about it. In fact, I had one thing here I was going to show you guys.
Sure.
One of my great guides is this here. It's a chronology of Marvel. And it goes
nice
back
looking.
to the Golden Age, and it's one of those giant books here, and it sort of goes year by year, decade by decade, and so there's so much to see and so much to learn.
That's a thick boy.
Does it end at a certain time, or?
That's the current one. They keep updating these things every year because Marvel keeps throwing out new format, especially with the MCU.
Right.
What does something like that run you?
This one was $50.
That's it? Wow.
Yeah.
Bad.
Yeah.
That's great.
Less than some new comic books that come out, you know, some new variants.
It's true.
So what did I miss? You guys were talking about Eternals and not Eternals. Adam Warlock.
Well, we're talking kind of before that. We're talking the High Evolutionary and how he kind of started. I just I'm walking Sith through like human guy. Herbert Wyndham started Pigman started creating pigmen. He was creating these like half human, half animal creatures, and I explained how that's how his first appearance kind of happened in Thor 134, where Thor went to go find him because he had Jane Foster. She was teaching these animal men. Math, I'm not 100% sure, but he rescued her. But we get his first appearance. But from that, there's a lot of connections to a lot of other things that are going to be happening. So one of the other things, and I had mentioned that his partner that he is working with at is a place called Wonderwear Mountain. He builds a citadel, this kind of base where he does all these experiments, is Jonathan Drew, and that's Jessica Drew's dad. And in this mountain, there is a high concentration of uranium, and they sell a whole bunch. They make a whole bunch of money, but the problem is that it starts making certain people sick. And one of the people it made sick was Jessica. Mm-hmm. So she falls under like this horrible sickness, and they put her in stasis. But before they do, Jonathan Drew injects her with this serum that he was working on from spiders, from arachnids. And then she stays in stasis for like a few decades while the High Evolutionary is like experimenting on like trying to make her better. And she gets revealed later on. So you can bring up that, I think the next one, I think it was the 32.
Yep, you see it now?
Right. So this is her first appearance, Marvel Spotlight.
I've got one signed by Stan Lee. It was one of the rare spec books I bought last year.
Oh wow!
Nice.
Yeah,
that's awesome. I've been trying to find one myself, but
by the way, Q. Yeah, I highlighted recently. There's a recent X-Men book where High Evolutionary appears with the Evolutionary Guard, if I remember, and he's still at it with these animals. And
really? Okay.
Yeah, because you know how I go through the Marvel books every week,
right,
and put them on slides. You know,
right.
I would have to depart this to go look at all the particulars, but yeah, he made an appearance again, doing the same stuff.
Well, I think kind of what's happening now too is, and because Feige's involved, I think a lot of this, like, it's all sort of interconnected. So one of the other things that's interconnected in with this place that they're at, it's the what do we call it, prison of Chthon. So Chthon is also imprisoned in this Wundagore mountain, and they find that out later on, and they find out that he, I guess his teachings or whatever, were part of the Darkhold. And the other part of that was they kind of mentioned the Darkhold because the owner of the land around Wundagore Mountain was the grandfather of Jack Russell, Werewolf by Night.
Wow, all these little connections, man.
So this High Evolutionary is like this. The story has all these little things that are grabbing onto everything. I think that's moving forward. That's why I think he's going to be a really important character, right? I know, Warlock's in the spotlight and stuff like that, but I think that this character, once that kind of gets revealed, I think it's going to be very important moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, just look at the prices of his first appearance, right? It's a book that's been talked about for a while that I didn't pick up, and now it's like, 4 figures.
Yeah, I passed on it as well.
The Thor? Okay,
yeah.
How about this? You guys talk for just a couple seconds. I'm going to open this first box here, do my first opening, and I'll show you what it is.
Nice. Let's hear from the ancient one.
Well, look, as you're telling me all this is so classic Marvel and sci-fi, where science fiction has done so many of these stories that enhance humans to make them more advanced and so forth. I remember an old Outer Limits episode in the late 50s or early 60s where I forget what the scientist was doing. He was experimenting on apes, and then he picks a human, just a day laborer, and who was the actor? His name escapes me, but he becomes so advanced, he's ready just to move on to a higher plane. And then his girlfriend or whatever reverses the process. He comes back to being human. But it's a great story that never literally gets old, and you can go in several different directions. In fact, I think I profiled it to you when I was on your show as one of the Defenders issues. I think it was Defenders 15 and 16, where the character Magneto comes up with a mutant called the Alpha, the Ultra Mutant, and he becomes this godlike creature and rapidly grows in size and strength and intelligence. Within hours or days, he becomes so powerful, he leaves the Earth because he's so bored. He wants to move on and do other things.
Well, that's like the with him, like his first appearance, he's like, later, I'm out of here. Right?
Kind of like Elon Musk, right? He wants to leave the Earth too.
Oh yeah, right. Do you think that's like that? Do you think that's like a narrative that there was like kind of a reflection of the time? Like if that was,
look at Star Trek, right?
Right.
Leave and explore.
Right. Like I think it was just on people's minds, or
seems like our destiny. I mean, we've explored the continents. Let's go to other planets. Go to Mars.
I think it's like I'm not egotistical is the wrong word, but I think it's just like you just want to conquer something else.
Manifest destiny.
It's also even with the Star Trek franchise, the fans at the time thought there was so much failure in the Earth. We're constantly at war with each other, and we can't come to any agreement. And we look toward the future where all these things will resolve, and we finally move forward in humanity, and with more of a civil tone. and that was the winning appeal that Gene Roddenberry projected. We all worked together.
It probably gave people a sense of like ease seeing that happen, right?
Oh yeah, Possibly. It was very inspiring.
Okay.
Q, would you have thought Star Trek would have come up in today's stream?
No. Not at all. But it's
I'm a big fan, by the way.
Oh, same here, right? We talked about it. I grew up on it. I remember.
Live long and prosper.
Can you guys do the vote? Yeah, I can do it. There we go.
Did you think this was going to happen?
This one, the left doesn't work as well as the right.
Here, this is going to be the thing. Here, put it up. This is the thumbnail. This is the thumbnail.
This is the nerd.
Yeah,
the
this
nerd
is us.
points, right?
That's me. This is why I had no friends as a kid.
Right.
Then you got to,
Okay, so not to interrupt, but to sort of
moving on.
Moving on. I'm a fan of Warlock, and like you said, they've been collecting the books. But I'm a big fan of collecting books that are on the peripheral.
Yeah.
That are associated.
Mm-hmm. I like that too.
I like that, right? So I've been watching this book for a while, and when it came up on the top 10 list last month, I was like, "Oh my god, I got to move on it." So.
Oh, yeah,
ouch.
Man, that's a great get. I like yourself.
Literally within, as soon as I saw the top 10 list, because I'd been watching this specific book, I'm like, bye, because I knew it was going to skyrocket. But
make yourself bigger. Let's see that close up.
Make myself.
There you are. Yeah, nice.
Oh, that's
6-0. Excellent.
Yeah, that is gorgeous. Don't ever lose that one.
No, right? It's a beautiful book.
Yeah.
I don't have it.
It presents really, really well.
We're late on it, so we'll just wait till later when it drops.
Yeah, it'll probably drop for sure. But I think I got it just before it kind of boomed, because as soon as I saw, I don't know if it was Go Collect or something, it showed up on the top 10 list.
Yeah, that
somewhere.
Book's been rising. Right.
But I had to make the move. So, and this is kind of why I wanted to have this kind of chat about this character, because I think, again, like, he has all these sort of connections. Like, I know they're using the younger Werewolf by Night in the upcoming movie, but there has to be some sort of connection, right? Like, I think his name is Gregor Rusov. That's his grandfather. That's the original. And what had happened was, one night, I can't remember her name, but Jonathan's wife was kind of distraught about Jessica being sick, and she's like, "I don't want you to experiment on her," and this, that, the other. So she takes off. She takes off into the woods. They go out and try and find her, and they find her like ripped to shreds.
Oh,
and they're
nice.
like, "What the hell is going on?" Right? So I think Jonathan takes off, and in that issue, and then Wyndham, kind of freaks out as well. So he makes that iconic suit. That suit, like, if you look at it, it's made out of sterling silver to protect him from the werewolves. Like, so all this other stuff around here is made from
I
sterling
never knew
silver.
that.
Yeah, that's cool.
One, to protect him from the uranium, but also to protect him from the werewolf. So he...
Tis the season, Halloween coming up.
Right. But he's so intrigued by this werewolf, he actually brings him in and he kind of studies him for a little while. I didn't look into how that kind of moves on, but he has him in the citadel for a little while he I don't think he experimented on him, but I think he studied.
How'd he tempt him in? Leave some stakes?
I think they battled, and then he won, and he's like, oh, okay. And then he told him the story of what happens. It's like 3 times a month I change, and then he's like, oh, okay, chill out.
We'll get you a flea bath. Come on in.
Right.
Hey, with a price of steaks, that would tempt me in. So just as an aside.
That's true.
Have any more humans in there?
Yeah, I'm hungry. I haven't had dinner yet.
But you bring up, this is a great example of how Marvel did such a wonderful job interweaving all their stories with literally every story, every title that they had, and they had dozens of titles, through the years, and I couldn't buy all of them. Right. I'm not up on Adam Warlock, and I'm not up on the High Evolutionary. I've seen them periodically in the issues I was reading, but I don't know anywhere near. I don't have the background that you do with these, but I do expect.
I'm learning.
Yeah, I'm learning too. I want to backtrack. I'm having a lot of fun rereading Silver Age stuff, but with the upcoming Eternals movie, I think they may touch on it, because that's the Eternals are also connected to the Inhumans and to the cosmic direction that Marvel's going into.
Right.
And if there is not a direct mention, I think there'll be a secondary mention, with this movie coming up next month. It's certainly supposed to come out in the Thor movie, which is due out when? When is the Thor movie coming out? Is that next year?
I think it's beginning of next year, I think.
Okay.
Or the end of this year. Okay, yeah.
Well, I think the Eternals is going to set that up.
So I think before you jumped on, like I had mentioned that the Inhumans had a part in this, because they're the ones that gave the High Evolutionary the information to sort of start doing this genetic manipulation. And Fader was his name. That gave him like this paperwork or whatever that cracked the genetic code. But there's also, and this, I won't get into it, but further on down the line, speaking of the Eternals and whatnot, this High Evolutionary tries to do this world cleansing, where he goes, apparently there's this world beneath the earth, and there's the deviants, and then there's other people, and he tries to do this like cleanse, where he tries to eliminate all impure people or whatever. But Apocalypse comes in and stops him from doing so.
Now this is on Counter Earth, or
no? This is on regular Earth, not on Counter Earth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know.
I'm gonna get right.
That's the one. Yeah. Sorry. That's the X Factor.
Mm-hmm.
X Factor.
X Factor Annual 3.
Correct. I wasn't gonna go that far, but because you brought up
came up in conversation, right?
Came up in conversation. Yeah. X Factor. That's the one right there. Yeah.
I have that. I didn't know I hadn't read it yet.
Yeah,
I'm years behind on my reading. It's embarrassing.
Same, buddy. So I was telling Q, I'm reading 40 books a week.
How do you do it? I don't see how you pull that off.
I'd rather read these books that Q's talking about.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you.
Some of the stories are good nowadays. I kind of like them. But
yeah.
Again,
I think they're relevant for what's going on with the MCU. You got to stay close to it.
Right. But I think they're bringing these they're bringing stories back, like the Darkhold, and other things that are kind of tying like the older stories back in, right? So that it's when it is presented to you, you're like, oh, it's familiar because it's in your face again, right? Like these stories or these things. Like I think it just picked up the Darkhold. It's got Chthon on the front of it, right?
Yeah.
It's
another hot book. A lot of talk around WandaVision. Remember that?
Right. So
I'm still a believer, though, that the MCU is still primarily gaining most of their strength regarding storyline from the Silver and Bronze Age. Those were the 2 decades, well, more than 2 decades, of the most prominent storytelling ever. I mean, the Marvel bullpen was just absolutely incredible. The more I dig into this, the more I'm impressed. And Sith, with your profile on your show about these Bronze Age books, even just not the filler books, but just the books that were in between the keys and first appearances. I mean, those are very, very important. Without those, the rest of the keys wouldn't work. And it's worth taking your time to read those. They're fantastic stories. They just
100%. 100%.
Sorry, I'm just thinking of something. So, what happens after all this kind of goes down with the grandfather of Werewolf by Night and with Jessica Drew and so on and so forth? I think he's this High Evolutionary who's kind of evolving into this. How do I say it? Like, I mean, anytime he encounters something, that's his thing. He adapts, he evolves. Like, I mean, eventually he goes up against Galactus.
Yes, I was going to bring that up.
And he beats a Galactus. I'll touch on that a little bit later because there's a little bit more kind of meat before that. But he's a pretty badass kind of guy, like starting out as a human. Anyways, he kind of was like, I'm done with Earth, need to go and create this kind of, and you said it, this new world. So he takes off into space to create this new world where it's pure, and it's there's no violence, and there's no despair. It almost has that sort of Thanos kind of feel to it, where he wanted to, like, rid humanity of all that despair by eradicating people, but this is a different way of doing it. Anyways, this is going to bring in Warlock. So he takes off into space, and he has a couple encounters with, I think, another one with Thor, and then he has another encounter with Hulk. And after the encounter with Hulk, he does this experiment. He tries this experiment, and we'll bring up the book in a second. It's the Tales to Astonish 96. He does this experiment on Hulk, and it doesn't work, so he tries it on himself, and he changes his body into like this cosmic like entity where he's one with the cosmos, where his mind and his body are just like this like out of body entity. It's pretty wild. And if you want to bring up that book,
Wasn't it the Tales to Astonish book where I think I have that, and it's been years since I've read it.
It's right here.
Was it not that? No. Was that it? Was that the High Evolutionary is on the cover? And if I remember correctly, he was trying to experiment on the Hulk, but because of his gamma ray enhanced cells, they rejected anything that was tried upon him, if I remember correctly. And I could be wrong about that because it's been decades since I've read that story.
Okay, I can kind of look this up, but when I was doing my research in it, it kind of jumped to the Tales to Astonish 96.
Okay.
It's a sick cover for sure.
Right?
All those are so gorgeous.
Oh, it's so
underrated.
Great.
Yeah.
It's such a beautiful. But this happens like really, really sort of. It happens really quickly. So he becomes this like cosmic entity, and that takes us to Marvel Premiere 1. So I think that the tail end of Tales to Astonish 96 is where we get Marvel Premiere 1 with the first introduction of Warlock. And briefly how that happens is he comes back to this human form, and he's on his citadel, his ship that he left Earth with, and he encounters the cocoon. So the way the cocoon got out into space was when he first encountered, I guess it was Thor. I should have brought up the other book.
Do you want me to get that?
Sure, the 130.
Yeah.
Was it 165?
We're talking about him.
Yeah. I'll go to that one. Yeah, that one there.
By the way, your boy's got one right here.
Of course.
This was a raw purchase, by the way, which I bought off eBay and then submitted to CGC myself way before there were long wait times.
What's the grade of that?
It's a 5.5 off-white to white pages. But
That's
hey, I'll
gorgeous.
take it.
Beautiful. Nice.
I think I paid maybe $100 for this or something. You know?
That's another one I don't have. Sadly, you have to make decisions along the way regarding your comic collecting, and there's ones that are on your list, but you have to put some on the back burner. That was one, and Q, the one you have, is also one. I don't think I'll ever get them.
High Evolutionary was on my watch list on eBay for a while, and I was looking at other things, and before you know it, that price, that horse left the barn.
Yes,
right, I know. I wanted this book as well, and there's a few others that I had to get before it as well. It's an awesome book. but going back to the story, like with Thor encountering him, where he gets born, and he there's a couple times where he goes back in his cocoon and he comes out of his cocoon, but he eventually ends up in space. So the short story is he kind of ends up in space. And let's go back to the Marvel Premiere 1.
All right, let me find that for you.
We're moving fast tracking here with Warlock.
And you can go in several different directions with this storyline. You just can. So
awesome, right?
I'm trying not to, because I don't want to distract from the direction you're taking, because I like where you're going with this.
Okay.
We could always have a part 2.
Okay.
There's a lot. There's a lot of meat on this bone here. Like
yes, there is.
And it keeps continuing. So, when the High Evolutionary returns back to this solid form, his bodily form, in his armor and whatnot, he encounters the cocoon that had left Earth out of the encounter with Thor, and it was a brief encounter, and he takes off to space, and High Evolutionary finds him floating in space. So he brings him into his ship, and I believe this happens in this issue here, and he is explaining there's this communication. Like I should have the panel, but he's speaking with Adam inside of this cocoon, and he's telling him I'm going to create this counter Earth. It's going to be this wonderful place to live. It's going to have all these beautiful things and this and the other, and he does create this, and it's kind of, I guess, kind of a godlike thing. He creates it very quickly, and his animal creatures kind of go awry on this, and he needs a bit of assistance. So then he brings forth Adam, and that's where the birth is. He's like, I need some help. I need you to go contain these man beasts that are down on this Earth. And it doesn't even explain how he gets this. They don't even call it the Soul Stone. They just call it this emerald. And he gives him this emerald, and he gives him the name Warlock. So I tried to do some research of how he got this, but it's really ambiguous. I don't know if you guys know it all, but like this is how he imbues him with this power. He gives him, and I think it's issue 2 where he kind of, I think they label it the Soul Stone.
And this touches on a very important point. As I go back and reread the Silver and Bronze Age, there is a lot of gaps that weren't explained. They were just sort of thrown out there without any real definition regarding how this happened or the mechanics of why it happened and so forth. And it's sort of left up to the reader to come up with your own interpretation of why certain events took place.
Yeah, I tried to find it, and it just says that he is in possession of it. So that's how we kind of get Warlock. When he goes down to the Counter Earth, they're like, it was kind of funny when I was reading it. They're like, "What's your name?" It's like Warlock. It's like, we just can't call you Warlock. It's just one name. We're going to call you Adam, Adam Warlock. So in the comic, that's how it kind of comes about. So I thought it was kind of fun.
Well, as you mentioned,
Peter Spider-Man,
right? Spider-Man.
Well, since we're literally sitting on the Earth as we speak right now, imagine the power to be able to recreate another Earth. It's beyond my comprehension to even see it. Where would you begin?
Right.
You know, to get the raw materials, the power, and all the rest of it. It's again, that's what's so fun about the comics. It makes you think about how would these things happen? How could you possibly pull this off?
Well, Dan, would you want to create another Earth, or just have every comic book there ever was?
I'll take the comic books. You know,
there you go.
the Earth thing sounds like a lot of work. So I'll
it's too much work. You have to make new friends, and you know.
Yeah, that'd be tough. That way, I could be invincible on the Tony Sanders show.
That's right.
So yeah, in him creating this, Warlock kind of gets this attachment to this Counter Earth, and he befriends these people. And there's a point where the High Evolutionary wants to eradicate everything. He wants to like start fresh and kind of get rid of everything. And he kind of convinces him to keep this around because it's important. And I guess he's made some sort of connections there as well, and he feels it's kind of important to kind of stick around. But later on, this is how we get Galactus, because I think his name, Destroyer. One of his heralds was the Destroyer. I guess it's one of from Asgard.
Yes,
is one of his heralds, and the herald finds Counter Earth and notifies Galactus, and that's how we get Galactus involved with. He just wants to chomp down on Counter Earth.
You want the next slide?
Sure. Yeah. Bring up the. I think it's
the 49.
No, it's the. Sorry, the Fantastic Four 175.
Right. I have that. If I remember correctly, the deal with Galactus and Reed Richards is still in place, that he cannot consume the Earth, but there's no such deal on Counter Earth, which is obviously where Galactus shows up, and the Evolutionary, wanting to defend his creation, obviously goes to battle with him.
Right, and this is what I had said before. What he does is, and I guess this is going to be awesome for the MCU, is when he encounters a threat, he changes. Right, to match this threat, and he's going toe to toe with this like world eater. Right. He does bring in the Fantastic Four to kind of help. There was somebody else too. I want to say Miracle Man. No, is it? I think it was Miracle Man as well.
No, the Impossible Man.
The Impossible Man. Sorry.
Yes.
Oh, that guy.
He's hilarious, by the way. He's a goofy character.
The conehead green guy, right?
Yes.
We lost Dan for a sec. There you
go. Oh, there we go.
He's the conehead green guy, right?
He is. I
was saying
he's a goofy character, but I love every time he shows up.
Better get his first appearance.
Doesn't he have the club hands or something? Or
no, he won't. No, he can change it to anything he wants.
Oh, I guess which issue was it? He's on it and he's got those little club hands. I had it in my hand like last week. I should have got it. Anyways, he goes toe to toe with Galactus in this issue over Counter Earth, trying to save it because he's been convinced along the way by Warlock that it's worthy. And I think in this issue he changes Galactus into a being that doesn't need to consume worlds anymore. He just needs to he's just like this, he needs to consume this energy. And that's how he lures him away from Counter Earth. But I found it interesting that his power. So what I'm thinking is like how it's going to be translated into the MCU. I don't think it's going to be a one and done character. I don't think this is going to be a one and done character. I think it's
got some legs, huh?
Yeah, I think it's got some legs, and I think once we kind of get it, and how they kind of roll it out, it's gonna be pretty awesome. I don't think people are paying attention to it.
If I remember correctly, the Impossible Man tricks Galactus into trying to consume his homeworld of Pop-Up, and they're saying, "Hey,
where
consume us?" That's it. That's his homeworld.
I remember that now.
Goofy, funny character.
Yeah.
And
like Pop-Up Shop.
Pop-Up Shop. Yeah, and the entire planet is calling to Galactus, literally saying, "Come consume me," and Galactus believes it and goes to do just that, and it backfires on Galactus, and that's how he's reverted to some sort of, I forget what it exactly what happens to him, but it becomes this being that can no longer, as you say, consume.
Right,
and
he changes them.
Yeah, and I forget how it all, because it's been decades since I've read it, and now I want to go through my collection and read it again to find out what happened.
So now I'm going to open up this box. as we continue our chat.
By the way, at the end of the show, I'm so jealous that you guys are opening these boxes. I put a pause on my purchasing, and we'll talk afterwards about the market itself.
This is, I know it's true. This has been sitting for. I bought this a while ago. I've been waiting to open this. I've been waiting to open this box for such a chat.
Okay.
It's like saving a fine wine.
Q, since you mentioned, I don't think we showed the slide. Maybe we skipped over, but there's the cocoon. Yeah, no worries.
Oh.
So yeah, this is it's a 6.5 off-white pages. I'll take it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. I just have the reprint for that.
I just remember when I was buying all these Warlock books, I was like, what's the first appearance? What do you mean? He's like got all these first appearances across Thor and Fantastic Four, and I got to buy 2 or 3 books.
He probably has one of the most convoluted appearances.
Yes, he does.
Right?
Yeah. There's even an appearance. The cocoon shows up in an Hulk Annual 5, I think it is, or 5 or 6.
I think he changes back and forth into a cocoon like 3 times.
Yes.
I remember Hyper gave Newbie the nickname Cocoon Bee.
Well, because that's what no, because Newbie said that. He was like, yeah, in the Cocoon Bee. He actually said Cocoon Bee.
Those guys.
Yeah.
Okay, so Dan, so after we kind of worked through the High Evolutionary and some Warlock stuff, we're gonna have a quick little chat about. We can talk about pricing, but we can also have a chat. Oh my god, we're gonna. Do you ever look at something and you're like, I've stared at this on a screen for so long, and then when you have it in your hands, sorry.
Yeah.
That sounds, it's like Dan's latest blow-up doll,
right?
You
high quality.
Promise not to out me.
We can talk about definition between key books and grails.
Oh man, what grade?
3.5?
3.5.
Yeah.
Holy crap! Look, we're twins, bro. I got a 3.5 too.
I almost pulled the trigger on that about a month ago. A 2.5, I think. I pulled back.
Show me.
3.5.
Nice.
Hey, look at that! Yeah.
That's funny. Mine's off-white pages. I don't mind.
Yeah, I don't mind.
Yeah. I mean, after getting the FF48, I mean, it's like had to get this one too.
You do,
right?
Yeah.
And don't sleep on the 50, by the way.
I need that one. Right.
No, yeah. I know.
Just like the Hulk 182. I need the triumvirate of those. Yeah.
Triumvirate. It's I actually like the 50. I like the cover. It's a very
nice brown cover,
right? But I don't know, the way it's drawn. I like it.
It's been ridiculed and it undeservedly so. I think it's a gorgeous cover. I mean, the brown, who cares? But what's cool about that particular cover is when Stanley signs the board itself. I've seen a few of those. I almost got my hands on one, but that's the perfect place for a Stanley signature.
Hang loose, kid, Stanley. Hang 10.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, I kind of wanted to incorporate those 2 books into kind of this little chat. So, we can talk about. Thank you. Yes, right. So,
would you say it's a grail or a mega key? I'm doing a video series.
That's a grail. That's a grail.
Okay.
Trust me. That's first Galactus.
Right. So, it's a grail for me too. But what separates it?
What do you mean?
What separates it for you? I know we're getting off track here, but
first full Galactus. You know how they say 48, and that's why you had to get them all. It's like the Hulk 180, 181. You know.
I can't get the toga one.
No, you're not into that.
I'm not into the toga cover. I can't do it. That's the only cover I just can't do. Like, I mean, I'll do.
If you can,
really?
If you can get a
toga, yeah.
If you can get Avengers Annual 10, you can get the toga.
Hey, I think my parents got that for me.
Nice. I've had it several times. I've got a raw copy.
Well, it was Jack Kirby being Jack Kirby. With the toga was one thing, but Galactus shows up at the final page with his G on his chest.
I know, right?
As if it's English is the universal language.
And I think he wasn't wearing pants either, right?
No, shorts. It was a hot
shorts.
day. It's a hot day in New York, and he shows up in shorts.
Well, hey, we don't have to guess. I mean, I just grabbed mine right over here.
There we go. See the toga.
Yeah.
See, I've got to get mine slabbed, and I'm making the decision. I'm probably going to go with ETS. That the turnaround time, they're gorgeous slabs, and I'm not interested in going. I mean, yeah, you'd like to have CGC, but you know, it's only for my PC, so I don't care.
Yeah. Plus, just supporting a good company, and
Absolutely.
use that SpineTicks discount code under 10. You get.
I will.
I messaged him. I was like, yeah, you can use the Ticks code. 10%.
You can't beat it. Can't beat it.
I'm sure if you message Tony and be like, he'll just give it to you, like the 10%.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Hey, we'll bring on SpineTicks. You can reveal it there.
I'd be happy to.
I think he'd be happy to grade it and to encapsulate it for you for sure.
Well, that one, it was the last Stanley signature, the last year of his life. I saw him in San Jose, and I didn't even know what CGC was. I just restarted my collection, didn't do my homework, and there was a CGC booth right outside Stan Lee, and I'm thinking, God, I was appalled, actually, to be honest with you. Kind of, the impression I got was people were sort of getting everything they could from Stan Lee before he passed, and I just had this awful feeling. Now I think differently about it because now I know what CGC is and slabbing and so forth. But now they have to, because his signature is he just came out of, he had pneumonia a month prior, and so he was pretty shaky. He stayed the entire weekend. It was a 3-day event, and he stayed like a trooper because he loved his fans so much. And I got him it took 2 days, but I got him to sign that. Wow. And I thanked him. I just had a second because, you know, there were 100 people behind me. And I said, thank you for everything. And he nodded his head and appreciated that.
Wow.
So that's great. One of my last Stan Lee moment.
Wow. That's awesome.
A true icon, man. You think about those legends, man. I mean, all of them. That's awesome.
He gave us so much.
Right. But it's just continuing. Like, it just keeps expanding. Like that whole world and characters that he created, it keeps growing. I think it's amazing, right?
And what you two are doing with doing this research in this this is just one small section of a gigantic universe he literally created from scratch. Right. And it's so interwoven and so interesting. And again, now we have an equally stellar team in the form of Kevin Feige and company bringing this to the big screen. I mean, look at what DC is doing, how feeble their efforts are to put known characters, Superman, Batman, the Justice League, they can't find their way out of they can't find their way to success. But Feige knows exactly what he's doing. He's put together his own Marvel bullpen, if you will. And I wouldn't say they can't do no wrong, but it's more success than failure.
Yeah, I haven't disliked anything thus far, and I've liked a lot, quite a bit.
Yeah,
but I think they have a lot of material to draw from, and I think you're right. I think they are getting a lot of the stories and ideas from the Silver and Bronze Age, and it's combining it with some new stuff. So
that's why every week I order Bronze Age reader books, just nice common back issues from my comic shop, and I drop a common haul, because it's just to look at those Bronze Age covers, see the names involved, the talent, the Marvel bullpen, if you will, Dan, as you mentioned. I mean, even though those books are only like $3-4, I mean, they're like, it's such nostalgia holding those books in your hand, more than any new book that I could ever buy.
Right.
And the leader of that was Roy Thomas. And I still say Roy Thomas was to this day, he's still with us, the most underappreciated Marvel writer of the time.
So, yeah, I just posted a Roy Thomas Submariner book on Instagram today. Just
I'd love to meet him. Yeah. Can you get him on your show? That'd be a dynamite interview.
I was gonna say 3 Men in a Basement had his handler, if you will, on their show, who was telling Roy Thomas stories. So they're like, one degree of separation from Roy Thomas.
Okay.
So wasn't in terms of Warlock that he played a part in that, right? And also Jim Starlin, right?
Yes.
I thought they both. I think didn't Roy Thomas help kind of create that, and then Jim Starlin took Warlock to space.
If I remember correctly, he didn't necessarily create or co-create, but he was an overseer because he was the editor-in-chief. Remember, he was the very first editor-in-chief after Stan himself. And Stan had a very hands-on approach after what they went through in the 50s with that awful book, The Seduction of the Innocent, they were very, very protective because Stan Lee, Jack Kirby knew they had a hit. So once Stan Lee left to Los Angeles to go to Hollywood, he felt that, in my view, and this is an assumption on my part, that Roy Thomas was the best man for the job. He understood Marvel just as well as he did. And he pre-proved it with the direction that Roy Thomas and his crew took in the early 70s into the mid-70s. The
heir apparent, huh? The
yes,
protege.
Yes, yes. He was good. He was damn good. And he brought us The Defenders. The Defenders was just a fantastic read. My favorite to this day.
Also, another thing. Go on.
I was just going to say Dan is Mr. Defenders.
Right? Of course. Of course.
Still reading it. Still learning from it, too, by the way.
That's good.
So, I had asked Sith this before. Now that we're getting into the Warlock territory, I know you're not very familiar with it, but what do you think of everything that's kind of going on, everything that's kind of being revealed to us right now? Like, I know you're a fan of how everything is kind of connected to comics and movies and stuff. So, how do you feel this is going to be moving forward with their decisions to do that?
I think the upcoming movie, starting with the Eternals, is going to open everyone's eyes, including mine, and make everyone want to go back and read the original storyline, which is how the comics accelerated and exploded because of the success of the MCU. Typically, when a movie comes out that people like, they want to read the book that they want to find out its origin, so they find the original book or books, and so they're going to go back to these issues and keep this market alive. So I'm absolutely looking forward to it, and I'm trying to do what you guys are doing, backtrack before the movie shows up, so I'm prepared. Because one of the things I love having is the knowledge of reading for all these decades, because seeing it on the big screen really enhances all the knowledge. It's not a curse. It's the biggest blessing you could have, to have so much knowledge. And they're doing it in such a way where they're not just repeating the stories that we read as kids. They're adding their own spin to it, their own flair, things you wouldn't have expected. And they're doing it in such a perfect way. I think Stan Lee himself would approve of it.
Right. There was and talking about adding their own flair, when I was kind of doing my research of this, I wasn't going to go too far with the whole evolutionary and Warlock thing, but there was a story that Warlock was involved in, and I heard someone had made the parallel where what we saw in What If, the whole Ultron story with his army and stones, that was a riff on a story from what happened with Warlock and the evolutionary in one of the fairly current books, where they had there's a battle ensued, and the evolutionary cloned Warlocks, so there was a whole bunch of them, but it was they were trying to battle Ultron. So I think they kind of took this storyline and incorporated it into the What If in a different way. I know some of the What If is going to be canon, it's going to be carried forward into movies and stuff like that. I just found it interesting that they had pulled from different things and different elements,
like a parallel story.
Yeah, I think they just took elements that kind of were in a different story and just kind of, I'm not saying twisted them, but manipulated them to to further their own narrative per se. Right?
Yeah, I think you have to separate, the movies from the comic, like Iron Man, right? Dead in the movies, but still alive in the comics. It's,
Right.
But yeah, heavily influenced, it's like when you get a cartoon and the comic, and they're slightly different, but there's similar characters or elements, and so, yeah, there's a lot of people who, think of the ladies who may not have, wanted to read a comic, but they go watch on a date, they'd go watch a Marvel movie and love it. Right. So it's there's a medium for wherever you want to go. I just kind of put aside all my novels. I've been a novel reader all my life, but I packed them all up. I said, half my life is over and it takes me a month to read this thick novel. you know, and I don't have time for that anymore. I've got all these other things, comic books, things I got to do. You know, I'll just read the Wikipedia summary on this novel, save some time. And, you know, so I'm consuming, you know, comic books and movies. It's sad because I've loved books all my life, and maybe I'll return to it. But at least while I'm still working a day job, I don't have time for them right now.
It's just a different medium, right?
Mm-hmm.
And,
yeah.
And I think for me, the excitement comes from, like, I love the movies. Like, I love how it's like that's all kind of tied into it, right? I love the nostalgia factor. I love picking up old books. I love seeing old books. But I love how that's being honored, right? Mm-hmm. I think I really, really appreciate that.
What I don't like is the slight panic factor that there's a book that you want that's now going to spike in price because it's coming out, and you're lying awake at night thinking of all the books you want to buy, and you're like, damn, you know, if I don't get this book soon enough. And if you go to my channel, right, I've been dropping these videos of these CGC grails, and I quite clearly show you like when I purchased it, what I purchased it for, and what they're worth now. Right. And so like those were like, you know, like the Hulk 180 is a classic example. I knew that book was going to take off. And, you know, for the price I got it compared to now, that was a good move. Same with the Fantastic 449, which you just got. Q, that's great. You know, it's books like that you know are going to be, you know, almost unreachable at some point. Like if Galactus comes in, you know, I mean, say goodbye to 49 as well.
I think it's inevitable that he'll come, but yeah. But it's also like, I mean, you have the foresight to be like, that's going to be
right.
Even though it was, you know, I'm not saying this was a cheap book whatsoever, but
cheaper now than later.
Cheaper now than later.
Right,
yeah.
Right. Well, let's if we could segue into what I'd like to bring something up that maybe, well, we should be aware of it, and if we're going to be, you know, pillars of the community regarding sort of guiding them one way or the other, I think there is a very possible downturn, or at least a stabilization in the market. And here's what I mean. I remember the housing market. And it was always a steady increase as the population grew, but the value of properties was, again, a slow and steady rise. And then government threw a bunch of money and changed the rules and so forth, and all of a sudden it started to quickly accelerate. And it got to a point where it was so high, people thought there'd be no end, and then it crashed in 2007, 2008. But there were people in the know that had a lot of property and saw the writing on the wall. They sold their property in 2005. There's one gentleman here in Sonoma County, where I live here in California. He sold everything, and the county tried to sue him, tried to claim eminent domain. And he said, no, this is my property. I'm selling it. He saw what was going to happen. He sold at the right time. And I bring this up for this reason. One of the shows that I watch is Comic Tom, and he has 3 shows per week to profile top 10s, and one of them was the honorable mentions, and 3 ultra elite grails made the top 10 a couple weeks ago. Marvel Comics #1, Captain America #1, both from the 30s and 40s, and Batman 1. Those are elite grails, and they were sold all in the same week.
Wow.
And if you're someone that has the means to sell that, one would think that you would know what the market's going to do. I'm thinking along the same lines that this gentleman who sold in 2005 and the others that sold during that time, because, you know, it takes a while to sell property. You're not going to sell it in a day. You have to put it on the market. It's going to take time and so forth. I think with the U.S. economy that's going to take a downturn starting at the beginning of next year, I think certain markets, including the comic market, are going to at least stabilize, if not take a dip. I'm noticing some of the prices on eBay come down. Yeah. And they're coming down substantially. So that's one of the reasons I'm putting a pause on my purchasing right now, because if the time is right, I can get a really good comic that I want for a better price later than I can now. I don't think you don't want to get it just before it peaks and then comes back down again, because just like with people who bought property, they sign the deed, the property's worth $600,000 on paper, and then it takes a nosedive, and now it's only worth $400,000, but you're still paying the $600,000 price, and you're upside down. Yeah. So it's something we need to keep an eye on.
Sure.
I agree with you 100%. I mean, it's you know, you hear about all just things like in the economy, supply chain issues, all kinds of other things. I have not purchased any big grails in a while. I'm buying my $4 issues, right? Because those prices are unchanged. That's fine. But yeah, I'm not making any big purchases. Any $500, $1,000 purchases. And maybe also because I've gotten a lot of the books that I wanted. There are always books that you want to get, but I'm kind of waiting and seeing as well. Plus, some people went back to work. People were getting stimulus checks for a while, and there were a lot of people at home, kind of bored buying things. So yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. I look around and I think, because I have way too many comics and things. I'm not a dirty flipper, as the nickname has gone around, but I do want to do a lot of spring cleaning, and sometimes I sell stuff just to get rid of it, even taking a slight loss to create space. But yeah, I need to make some room here in the inventory and put some things, list them up.
I think there's a little bit of everything happening. Everything that happened in 07 and 08 had a lot to do with money lending, and a lot of that is changed. Like, in terms of there were a lot of bad deals that were happening in 07 and 08 in terms of who's getting money. So a lot of property was being purchased on those bad loans. So, and then when those kind of came to call, they kind of fell through the cracks. Do I think that there's going to be a bit of a dip? I think with some of the books, but I think some of the bigger books, there might be a little bit of difference, but I think a lot of these bigger books are going to maintain the increase that they had seen over this lockdown. But I think there was a bit of a correction. You guys may not agree with me, but I think there were a lot of books that should have been more, that weren't, I'm not going to use the word undervalued, but I think that once a lot of the eyes were like, oh, I see what's going on here. I see the value in this. So let's arrange the prices so that they're correct, and then we'll kind of move from there. I agree, Dan. I think there might be a little bit of a level off. There might be some surprises for some people in terms of money and so forth. So that will impact the community for sure. Do I think that it's going to crash? No.
I think it's not going to crash. Go ahead.
Not crash. Not crash.
I was going to say, in this country, I think Dan and I probably would agree, right? When I think about the economy, and not that we're becoming an economy show, but I can't really think of any good news or any promising news that would, that looks like blue skies on the horizon. So that's why I think, as people are even selling comics to make rent and things like that, I think, I would agree with Dan on that. And, in terms of some of those grails, right, that could even be, some inflation. Who knows? There are books that people will always want, but yeah, it seems like some staples, meats, gas. Prices are going up on stuff like that.
Right. But that's going to affect this market, this community, because as everything else becomes more expensive, you're going to have less to invest in secondary things like this, like a hobby.
Right. I think, like comics are not a necessity, right? Food and gas are.
For some people they are.
Yeah. Well, when you can't, pay bills, right? It's like, well, let me go to the pawn shop or eBay.
Right.
Instagram sales.
There will be people, and I was one of them in my 20s and even early 30s. I made a lot of financial mistakes and paid for it because I've had 3 amazing Fantasy 15s in my career. I've had several. I've had everything. In fact, I can't think of a grail regarding Marvel I didn't have. Sold them at a reduced rate because I had to. But I changed that all 7 years ago, so what's behind me stays here. And there are going to be people, sadly, that will be selling just because they desperately need money. And it's part of the market. You feel bad for them, but it is an opportunity to get your hands on something. And there's others like this here. This is Avengers 57. I paid about $300 for it. It's a nice mid-grade. This was about, 800, pushing 1,000 at the height of WandaVision. And then WandaVision came and went, and books like this just took a nosedive, and that was the right time to buy it. So again, just being aware of your surroundings, being aware of what the markets are doing. Just awareness is a huge benefit for you moving forward, because I'm not going to stop buying. What I'm going to do is put a pause on my buying.
Right.
continue reading, but also now's the time to start slabbing. I'm way behind on that and preserving, my books, and so this is a great time to, clean up the collection, if you will.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I can imagine the EGS custom label on your FF book's going to look amazing.
I want to see what they can do. Here's what I want to do, and this is between the three of us.
I'm glad you're interested and intrigued. Like for myself, and I know Sith shares this. I really appreciate what Tony is doing. I admire his ethic, his attention to his customers. Because everything that I've kind of gone through in the past a little bit with some graders, I appreciate everything that he does. So it makes me happy when you are like, you know what, I'm going to look into this. I might give him some business and so forth. So
he seems like a stand-up guy. I mean, he's
super
putting
nice.
himself out there in the community. Yeah. He's on journals often. That's the first time I'd seen him. And for someone to put yourself out there, he's serious about his craft here. And so if someone's that serious, I'm going to take a look at this. But here's what I want to do. I have a Hulk 180, and I'd like to send it in. And I'm hoping he doesn't put the word cameo on the cover. If he does that, I'm sold.
Well, you can talk to him ahead of time. I've emailed him quite a bit. I met him through Q's show here, and he's a great guy. I talk to him every now and then on email. He donated a book for the SpineTicks 1K. So if you send him an email, you can talk to him about this stuff ahead of time.
I'm going to.
They even say last page.
Yeah.
Oh, do they really?
That's what I mentioned Q in my video yesterday. I just dropped that on my channel, and I called out what was on the label. But you know what? My 180 is a higher grade than my 181. So, I own them both, so I'm good either way. But hey, if they want to call 180 the first, then I'm fine with that because it's a higher grade.
I'm just happy to have it in the collection, to be honest with you.
Oh yeah, me too. Me too.
Yeah.
I think it's in terms of part of the history of books. It's and let's maybe end this on a lighter note. This for me is a grail.
Yes.
Hold on. Let me get mine because.
Oh damn it! I'd have to dig mine out.
Oh wow.
We can wait and get your Fantastic Four book. Let's.
Damn, where's yours? This is the thumbnail right here. This is like.
I thought we're gonna do Spock too.
Here we go. This is one of my early purchases about 6 years ago. I paid $200 for it. It's probably a 5, possibly a 6. It's probably more of a mid-grade 5.
That's a good picture.
Yeah, but for $200, you can't beat it.
Yeah, I paid $455 for this, and I want to say it was about $1,200 the last completed sale in the 5.5.
Oh yeah.
I think I got mine for. I want to say, got it for just under 1,000.
Okay,
nice.
So for a 6.0.
You know what? This is the right mix of guys right here. We all have an appreciation for these books. We're all passionate about the silver, bronze, and copper.
But
right?
I think we're also very aware of pricing. I'm not saying frugal or whatever, but I definitely approach it in a way where it's an investment, and I think you guys do the same.
Yeah. I mean, I don't plan to sell them, but it's nice to have value to them and to be aware of what that value is and to protect them adequately, and to get comic book insurance, which I have. So look into that. Yeah, look into that.
Yeah, definitely.
That's actually, we should do a show on. I have a friend in the insurance business. He owns it's an insurance company. We should get him on here and just chat about what's covered, what's not, how much you should pay. And
I have a separate policy, separate from my homeowners. Yeah. So that way, and it's protected even when you're shipping a book on eBay or whatever. If you're selling it, if it's in your storage unit, off-site, you're at a convention, you're bringing it to sign, and someone steals your backpack, it's covered.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. That's great.
Yeah. I'm scared to realize what this is actually worth. I do have to get it insured. It's not insured right now, so I know that's a mistake.
Do it.
Yeah.
I'll put you in touch, Dan.
We have homeowners insurance, right?
Yeah.
And you have documentation.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah, but it's hard. I don't.
That's why I post, buddy. When I post, it's proof of ownership.
Yeah, you told me. Yeah.
Oh, that is true. That I posted a lot.
But it's interesting, like the values change, right? Like if something, I'm not saying anything would happen, but if something were to happen, you'd be like, no, it's actually worth this. Like, I know I paid this, but it's actually worth this.
Right.
Well, that's why I use, my insurance company will take the output of the CLZ app.
Yeah. That's the most important thing right there, right? Is once you have everything documented, because it keeps changing, right? I'm not saying it's 100% accurate, but it's pretty close, right?
It's worth more than my stock portfolio. You know what I mean? I gotta, and that's no joke. It's crazy. And I just built this collection up. I want to say it was like 2015. You know, this current collection.
Yeah.
And it, besides the Star Wars books, I've had those for a while.
I started about 8 years ago to rebuild my collection, and I started more or less from scratch, with the exception of my Fantastic Four 3, which I still have. That was my first Stan Lee signed book, which I'll never get rid of. And I methodically built, and I realized if you didn't get your books after 2020, the doors kind of closed to get deals. There's still some deals out there, but the I think we're going to reach a point. Yeah, it has changed. I do think the books we just showed and others, they're going to plateau and stay where they are and slowly go up. They're not going to go down. A few will, but I'm sad to say the opportunity's closed if you're starting now.
Yeah. Well, Q, what's going to be next month? What's going to be our subject matter for the Three Amigos?
I have to think about that. I'm not sure, actually.
Well, you know, the new movie will be out by
Eternals.
Right? I'm certain that's going to spark an awful lot of conversation all by itself.
I think there's going to be a lot of stuff that's going to be like associated with that. I think there's going to be a lot of surprises, to be honest.
Oh yeah.
I don't want to throw out the speculations, but I think there's going to be some surprises about some future stuff for sure.
So stay tuned next month on Q's channel.
I love how these, like, I mean, our chats are really organic, and I really like that, because I think we're really sort of like-minded. So yeah.
Plus, you have a sober Sithlordly. Dan's not used to that.
Just water.
There's no adults in diapers on this channel.
Well, with your chat on Saturday, which is the best show, it really is. It's so hilarious. Drinking is required. Alcohol should be a requirement of the Sithlordly show, the SpineTicks show on Saturday.
Well, I would like to get both of you guys on there at the same time.
That'd be great.
Let me know when that's going to happen.
You just have to stay up late, Dan.
Yeah.
Because I pop on pretty late.
Yeah.
All right. So you know what? I know we kind of digressed a little bit from the original conversation, but we brought a little bit of light to a couple characters that are going to be coming forth in the future. I think that the High Evolutionary is going to play a really pretty big part, along with Warlock, with everything that's kind of coming up in the MCU. So we showed a little bit of light on his character and his sort of origins. So I appreciate you guys joining me tonight. Is there anything that you want to add, or?
No, we covered a lot of ground tonight. Yeah. So
okay.
It's just nice to be here. Yeah, appreciate you having me and Dan over at your pad.
Yeah, that's all right. It's awesome. Hopefully, next month we'll do something else and continue this.
I guess let me tease. You have been kind of pushing me, Sith, to get my own little thing, and I'm thinking about doing it.
Oh, that'd be great.
I was thinking.
You heard it here first, guys.
That's true. The groundbreaking. I thought about doing something similar, just a profile of one or two comics, mostly Silver Bronze Age stuff, my own take on it, and we'll see how this goes. But I've got lots of obligations, so but the idea's out there that I might just do something. So
well, count on Q and I as being wingmen when you need us.
Love it.
Right on. Okay, I'm gonna let you guys go. I'm gonna end the broadcast, but stick around for a couple of moments after, and we'll just say our goodbyes. But thank you guys for joining me. It's awesome, and I hope the audience and whoever listens to this enjoys our chat, enjoys some of the information that we kind of presented. And yeah, thanks for tuning in, and do all the like, subscribe, all that stuff if you haven't. And we'll talk soon. Cheers.